Star Wars only, I don't know what the fuck your problem is.
Star Wars Episode 9 The Rise of Skywalker is coming out this December 2019. But originally, Episode 9 was supposed to be directed by Colin Trevorrow, and it was supposed to be released last month, May 2019. That was the original plan until Colin Trevorrow left the project due to creative differences with the heads of Lucasfilm, I assume. And due to that, they had to bring in J.J. Abrams. Fall 2017, you bring in J.J. Abrams, you delay the film by 8 months, say, hey, it's coming out in December. That gives you a smaller time frame. And the editor of Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker has just talked about that. Marion Brandon is her name. She did the editing for Star Wars Episode 7 The Force Awakens. She's got a lot of good movies under her belt as well. I think she's a very credible and very good editor. She talks about the kind of time constraint that they had for Episode 9 compared to the other installments of the sequel trilogy. And let's talk about it right here. Let's look at her interview. She says, when we did The Force Awakens, we started in May and we finished shooting in October, and we were out the following Christmas. For this film, we didn't start until August, so we weren't done until February shooting. So we have 4 months less time, and it's a very big film, so I convinced JJ to let me cut on set. He was like, no, we never do that. And the article from ComingSoon.net who did the interview says, as a result, Brandon spent her time on set never more than 10 feet away from J.J. Abrams. The idea of cutting the film as a shot allowed her to form a better relationship with the cast, and even got kinds of shots on the fly they might need later, cutting down the number of reshoots needed at the end. And then she goes on to say, I had the DP right there to ask questions. If I needed a shot, or if JJ decided we needed another shot, we would set up in a corner and get a green shot of something. Getting to know the cast and having them be comfortable with me, it was a really great way to understand what they were going through. And I do like this interview. I think there were some good takeaways from it and one bad takeaway from it. I think the good takeaway so far is that JJ's listening to other people. He's allowing other creative minds to have influence over this film. And this is a little risky. This is kind of a riskier move to let the editor edit the film as you're filming, as you're shooting. And that's something that George did back in 2002 with Attack of the Clones, or when he was filming Attack of the Clones. He did a lot of the editing as he was filming and on set. I mean, literally, he would film it, put it in, and then start editing it right there, just for the convenience of doing it, though. It wasn't really anything like this where it's a time constraint. George just wanted to do it just to do it. And I think that's one of the reasons Attack of the Clones wasn't the greatest film. So I think it's a circumstantial kind of thing. Because due to Attack of the Clones, I caution against this. I caution against editing while you film. But JJ knows a lot more about movie making than I do, but I mean, even he said, no, we never do that, but he's got trust in his editor, and as he should. She is a very credible editor and has been working with JJ for quite some time. One of the negative takeaways about this, though, is that it's getting on the edge of saying this might be a rushed film. It's not a rushed film. I don't want you to take away that from this video at all. I don't want anyone saying in the comments, oh, this confirms this movie is rushed. It does mean it's on a tighter schedule. It does mean that it has time constraints, but it seems like they've worked around that. But it does make me cautious, because Episode 7 wasn't finished up until a month before it's released. November is when they finished up that film in 2015. It was released in December of 2015. And that makes me wonder, when are they going to finish this with 4 months less of time? But as Marion, the editor, said, that when they were filming, they were editing, so they probably have that, huge time advantage compared to what they had with The Force Awakens or even The Last Jedi. I just think it's baffling that this film was still on a short schedule that had a time restraint that they had to work around, that they really had to improvise on. And respect for improvising on it and making it work, hopefully. I really can't wait to see how they pull it off. I mean, honestly, I hope the editing is as good as I expect it to be, because one of the great things about the original Star Wars films, the original Star Wars, 1977, A New Hope, is that is a very well edited film, because it wasn't a very well written film. It had a lot of problems going on production side and everything, and due to the great editing of Marcia Lucas and the two other guys that were working with her, they brought out a really great film. So hopefully they can do that with Episode 9 here. But one of the better implications I will say about this is that if you look at the history of Lucasfilm, and with them under Disney, and any production problems, they normally switch things up. And they did it with Episode 9. They didn't have a good script for Colin Trevorrow, so they put in J.J. Abrams. But JJ had a problem with the editing and that time constraint, and he was allowed to let his editor basically pick what she wants to do. And I think that adds to the narrative that JJ's more in control of this film than he was in Episode 7. And I actually do have some information from some inside sources that, in my opinion, confirms that Kathleen Kennedy has less control over Episode 9 than J.J. Abrams does. I think J.J. Abrams is more in charge of this film than Kathleen Kennedy is, because of all the creative freedom that he not only has, but the behind the scenes stuff that's also going on that he has more power on than he did with Episode 7, and I like that. I like JJ, the director and co-writer, having more creative freedom over his film and using that creative freedom to give to some editor. And using that creative freedom to let his editor do something that's risky and, kind of cautionary for a lot of fans that make us go, ooh, that's a bold move, but hey, you got the balls to do it by all means. This is interesting news. I don't know how to really take away from it. It's one of those things where it's bittersweet, in my opinion. It's like, ooh, it might be rushed, but this confirms a lot of good things for me. It confirms that JJ's letting other people have influence over the film. He's trusting creative minds, and he's also having more control over Episode 9 than he is over Episode 7. He has more control over Episode 9 than Kathleen Kennedy does. And I think that's good news for Star Wars fans and good news for Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. So tell me your thoughts below. What do you guys think about all this? Are you excited for Episode 9? Are you not? What do you think about the tighter schedule that they have? It's coming out in 2019 this year, and it was supposed to come out in May of 2019 last month. Just interesting thing to think about, that what if scenario of what if this film came out last month. Interesting timeline to think about. Tell me your thoughts below. I'm Star Wars Only. I'll see you all next time, and may the Force be with you always.